So, this is episode 2 of the story of my life. My name is Ryan Freeman. I had mentioned in the last episode that I would see you very soon because I'm making this second video on the same day, just actually moments apart. I don't know how this series is going to go, how I will serialize it, but I'll just do it as it feels natural. A lot of the ways that I make videos, as a side note, is sort of spontaneously without a lot of pre-planning. But as my feelings sort of push me, then I speak. So the last episode I talked about the differences between my grandfathers. I'd like to just make a note on the differences between my grandmothers to further illustrate the differences between the Freeman side, my dad's wild father from the South, Alabama boy, and my mother's Cohen side, Koen, not Jewish. It's actually pronounced Koen. It's I believe a Dutch name, or Danish, somewhere around there. The Baptist preacher, upright, pastor of a church. Very different families. The Freemans and the Cohens. So their wives. My dad's mom, her maiden name was Quintana, Alice Quintana, and she was very affectionate. This was a woman who was the most affectionate person I've ever met in my entire life. If I ever went within my grandmother's presence, which I like to do because she was so full of love, she smothered me with kisses, which was a contrast to her husband Jack, the Alabama boy, white guy with blue eyes, who liked to fight. I never got to meet him during his really wild days. Like I said, he salted his beer and watched the Dodgers whenever I saw him. He wasn't a very warm cat, but his wife Alice Quintana, her maiden name, was. I'm not kidding you. My face would be wet from her kisses. She didn't drive a car, she didn't work a job. She was the matron of her poor family, as well as the other neighborhood boys. She cooked for everyone. She had the heart of an angel, from all accounts, even before I really got to know her, and then as I got to know her, and she passed when I was 18. She was the kindest woman, the kindest, sweetest woman I've probably have ever met. Perhaps that's one of the reasons I named my daughter Alice, in her memory. But her mother, just to be real quick, I never met her parents. But it's just so funny how this little sweet angel, I guess her mother was a terror. She had a mother who was blonde hair, blue eyes, really proud of her Spanish ancestry, and very racist. My mother would be embarrassed when they would go to the supermarket because she would go up to Asian people and go, yeah, it was just during. I'm not going to make excuses for my racist ancestors, especially ones I've never met, but she hated Japanese people. I don't know if it was because of the war, World War II. You go back to your grandfathers or great-grandfathers, you'll find a lot of opinions that don't jive well with today's age, and apparently Alice's mother was one of those women, and she hated Mexicans. She lived in Hollywood, had a little house there, and apparently she would, I'm not proud of this, but she would spray the Mexican kids with the hose as they passed by. So that's not a good thing. I don't condone that at all. But she did have my grandmother Alice, who was the sweetest woman that I've ever met in my entire life. To contrast her with my mother's mom, Mimi, who is still alive today, who I love to death, who has been nothing but good to my life. But she came from German stock, and she was much more matter of fact, much more German, a little less affectionate, but loved us nonetheless. So that was the differences between my grandmothers. Actually, I see my wife coming up, so I'm going to make this episode short. So from these two very different families, my father's Freeman family mixed with that Spanish Quintana, and I guess my grandmother's father, He was either Mexican or an Apache. The only person alive that has met him was my uncle. He said he was a horse breaker from New Mexico who would hand out silver dollars. I don't know. We have some letters that he wrote. My grandmother, they're all in Spanish. My grandmother, Alice, actually spoke Spanish to me, called me Hito, between all of the kisses she would give me. So these two different families, father and mother, fall in love. They get married at a very young age. My father is supporting our family. They're very poor. They have my brother Nathan. They have me. My dad's 25. We grow up in Uptown Whittier. And, you know, when I look back at those early days, you know, it's sort of a dream-like sequence to even go back to my earliest memories. And sometimes I don't even know if those are my memories or those are my memories of stories about that time. But we lived in this funny house, old house in Uptown Whittier. And whenever I think back to those days, it's so beautiful. And it makes me think about the memories I'm making today with my daughter Alice and my wife. And I want to make those as beautiful as possible, because I think to a large measure, we can't control everything in our life, but it is nice to make good memories with the people that we share this life with. And I don't know all of the aspects of psychology, but I got to imagine that a lot of mental illness is due to a lot of tragedy and trauma that occurs in people. And it's okay, you know, we all probably will get trauma at some point, or tragedy. Obviously, life has tragedy throughout it. But talking about it does help. So, my earliest memories of growing up at my first house was, one, my Uncle Bob killing my dog Buffy. I talked about this in the European adventure story I did not too long ago. I had my father's family, as wild as his dad was, as strange as his racist grandmother, Spanish grandmother was. You know, all of his siblings were very strange. He had a younger sister, red-headed, fat, wild woman who fought and made love and is just divorced tons of men, and she's like a succubus. She's just this crazy, freckled, fat, red-headed woman who's man-eater. I love her. He has an older brother, John, who's like the peaceful guy, very nice guy, also a pastor, has spent years working with orphans in Cambodia. He had a younger brother, Mike, who was gay and got AIDS and was trying to make it as an actor and had a wild gay actor lifestyle in Hollywood, ended up dying to AIDS at an early age. And then he had his oldest brother, Bob, who was the wild hippie who dodged the Vietnam draft, who lived in far corners of the world, went on wild adventures, and tried to fuck my wife when we visited in Switzerland. So, and he also killed my dog, Buffy, my very first memory, living in Uptown Whittier. And I don't say any of this with anger. It's just, everyone's weird, man. I've got things that people would find strange, I'm sure. So just life has so many varied shades and varied types of people that it's interesting to really look at your family. And my mom's side was very tame, you know. Everyone sort of lived within the Christian order. Not a lot of rebellion. Also characters in their own right. And I would say that as I was growing up, I saw both families. You know, my mom's family always was very peaceful, always good food, always very nice. My dad's family would sometimes have fights, people would get kicked out. I had a lot more fun at my dad's family parties. They didn't always happen because they would be fighting a lot. You know, when you have chaotic members, you know, sometimes it doesn't gel well. My mom's family was like a German schedule, you know, always we're going to have parties on time. They wouldn't go very long. They wouldn't be very passionate. we would hold our hands and say prayer. We would sit down. We would have good manners. So with my mom's family, it was very rigid and structured. My dad's family was wild, drinking, shouting, fighting. And I had a lot more fun there. I always looked forward to my dad's family parties growing up, much more than my mom's family's parties. Simple, I don't know why. And I loved my mom's family, but I just enjoyed them a lot more. It's funny because I have two sides. Half of me is my father, half of me is my mother. And I'm thankful to be who I am. But it's interesting to look at the very stark differences between the two. My brother Nathan, my older brother Nathan, I think he much more sides with my mom's side, much more. And if you look at the way our lives have shaped out, he is much more structured and normal, for lack of a better word, than perhaps me. I've lived a much more unorthodox, unprofitable life, some might say, to be blunt. But my mom's family was all about God and the church, and so a lot of my life revolved around the church. And so in the next episode, I will start to talk about my religious education. And then perhaps there will be other episodes very soon that will talk about other stories. As such, I'm going to go find my wife. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful morning. Thank you for tuning in. Like I said, this is going to be a sort of a pell-mell series, a little scattered and chaotic like my father's family, but all honest, all from my heart, and I love you guys. Thank you for watching. My name is Ryan Freeman. See you soon.